as she went out onto the porch and pulled her luggage behind her. My mother exclaimed, "You're late." I looked at my dashboard's clock. The time was 6:02 a.m. I forced a grin and said, "Mom, I'm 2 minutes late." My sister Lauren was coming out of the house with her own bag in tow as I stepped out of the van to assist with the luggage. My grin became cold. "What's happening?" Trying to speak steadily, I asked. My mother turned to face me, her face too happy for the occasion. "Oh, Violet, we agreed that Lauren should attend in your place. She truly needs this trip because she has been under a lot of stress recently." My chest constricted. Could it be someone else instead of me? I paid for everything, Mom, and I've been planning this for years. She dismissively waved her hand as though I had just brought up a pointless detail. "We appreciate that, dear, but you put forth a lot of effort every day. Later, you can go somewhere else. This is what Lauren needs today." Lauren lacked even the grace to seem guilty. She simply shifted her weight onto one hip and grinned. With a tone full of phony appreciation, she responded, "Thanks for understanding, sis." My pulse was racing as I gazed at the two of them. After a time, my dad handed me his luggage and walked out. Avoiding eye contact, I shook my voice and exclaimed, "This is unbelievable. I want to share with you that this was intended to be our journey." My mother smiled and remarked, "Well, it still is. Instead, just with Lauren. Violet, don't worry about it. Your sister is in dire need of a vacation. I'm Violet, and I've been working extra hours and saving every cent for a trip my parents will never forget for the past 2 years. Airfare, upscale lodging, and escorted excursions. I coordinated everything, including the Last Supper reservation." However, as I saw my sister climb into the backseat of my car in my parents' driveway, I realized what I had been avoiding for years. No matter how hard I worked, it made no difference. Lauren would always come first in their eyes. I bit back the scathing remark that was on my tongue and tightened my jaw. I opened the trunk instead, forcing a strained grin. "Then let's go," I replied in a bland voice. "Okay, if they choose to prioritize her over me, that's fine. They may accompany her. I wasn't going to let them have fun, though. With the exception of Lauren's constant conversation, the journey to the airport was oppressively quiet. "Mom, did you see the Paris-related TikTok? The prospect of shopping there excites me. Will we have time for it, in your opinion, or will the tours take up the entire day?" I forced myself not to speak as I glanced straight ahead, my hands tightening their grasp on the driving wheel. My mother laughed quietly. "We'll have time, of course. When we get there, we'll work it out." I took a bite out of my cheek. When we arrive, they didn't even appear to realize that I was no longer a member of that group. My father cleared his throat once. "Violet, I appreciate you driving us. I understand how this must feel. Uncommon." I looked in the rearview mirror at him. "Strange, Dad, that's a clever way to say it." He didn't answer. He only shuffled uneasily in his chair, perhaps wishing he had said nothing at all. Lauren's voice was annoying as she leaned forward from the back seat. "You're not angry, are you? It's incredibly huge of you to let me leave like that. On my own, I could never have afforded this." I made a tight smile and tightened my jaw. "It's Lauren, of course. Have fun on the journey." My tolerance was ebbing by the time we arrived at the airport drop-off area. My mother hugged me while I assisted them in unloading their bags. "I appreciate your understanding, my love, for Lauren and us. This is really important." I gave a rigid nod. "Yes, Mother," wheeling her bag toward the door. Lauren smiled. "Regards, Violet. You are the greatest." As I watched them disappear inside the terminal, hurt and rage constricted my chest. It was a blur on the way home. I repeatedly reenacted the exchange in my mind, with each statement having a deeper meaning than the one before. "This really touches Lauren. You're not angry, are you? You work so hard all the time." After parking in my driveway, I spent a few minutes sitting in the car and holding on to the steering wheel until my knuckles became white. Then, without hesitation, I strode inside, took out my laptop, and signed into all of the travel accounts I had used to make the reservation. Reservations for a hotel? Cancelled. Tours? Reimbursed. Upgrades on airlines? The answer is no. The constriction in my chest began to loosen as I gazed at the confirmation emails that were accumulating in my inbox. Instead of me, they wanted to kidnap Lauren? All right. However, they wouldn't be taking special excursions or lodging in 5-star hotels on my dime. I felt a wave of satisfaction wash over me as I shut down my laptop. In Paris, they could explain themselves to the receptionists. I had had enough of being a doormat. When their plane touched down, the calls began. As I unpacked my suitcase, the one I had meticulously prepared for a vacation that was no longer mine, my phone began to vibrate constantly. As I put my shoes back on the rack and hung up my clothes, I couldn't help but notice the irony. The incessant vibration of the humming permeated the entire area. I picked up the phone, looked at the screen, and sighed. It displayed a number of missed calls and messages along with my mom's name. After unlocking the phone, I went through the texts. What's going on, Violet? We are unable to check in at the hotel. There is no reservation. Give me a call now. This isn't funny. Violet, take care of this right now. Before I could stop myself, I let out a chuckle. Make this right? After what they'd done, did they really think I'd come to their rescue? Lauren was calling when the phone buzzed once again. She left me a voicemail after I let it ring. With a tone full of entitlement, she said, Violet, this is so petty. You're the reason we're in this situation. Call the hotel and make the necessary arrangements right away. I rolled my eyes and erased the voicemail without listening to what was left. I had been their go-to person for years, taking on all the responsibilities and correcting all the errors. No more. I finally made the decision to respond, if only to put an end to the flurry of calls. Immediately upon answering the phone, the sound of my mother's voice overwhelmed me with a torrent of anger. What did you do, Violet? The hotel canceled the reservation and currently has no scheduled excursions. After listening to her tirade for a while, I calmly responded, I'm canceling them. After a lengthy moment of astonished silence, she growled, Why would you do that? Oh, I'm not sure, I answered in a sarcastic tone. Perhaps it's because you chose to join me on my trip with Lauren. I even took you to the airport. So you're lucky. We assumed you would comprehend. She yelled. Know what? I raised my voice and asked. That Lauren needed a vacation. And all the years of saving and preparing were in vain? Did my efforts go unappreciated by you? I'm not sure I understand. And I don't want to. Mom. Before she could answer, I hung up and threw my phone on the couch to turn it off. I felt like I could breathe again in the lovely stillness that followed. Okay, if they wanted to put Lauren first. However, they could manage the remainder of the journey without my assistance. There was only a day of stillness. My phone was ringing with calls and messages once more by the next morning. I disregarded them at first. I caught up on work and cleaned the house during the day. But by nightfall, my curiosity overcame me. With my phone open, I prepared myself for the barrage of texts that would follow. You've gone too far, Violet. From my mother. Your father is angry, and your sister is crying. None of the hotels you reserved are accessible to us. You're behaving like a child. Lauren, why you're making such a huge deal out of this is beyond me. Just get things fixed already. Finally, my dad said, This isn't right, we need to talk. I shook my head and put the phone down. I had been the one making repairs and ensuring everyone was content for years. They were unsure of how to respond now that I had retreated. After pouring myself a cup of tea, I took a seat at the kitchen table and let my rage stew. They have no right to ask me to tidy up their mess. How could they pretend that I was at fault? Minutes later, I took the next call and answered it. Before I could say anything, my mother, Violet, barked. This is no longer amusing. We're stuck. How humiliating is this? Do you know? I sipped my tea slowly. Feeling embarrassed? Do you find this embarrassing? Imagine spending years saving and planning every detail of the vacation, only to learn that you won't even be taking part. She said, Stop being dramatic. Lauren was more in need of this than you were. I firmly responded. And now she can figure it out. You've made your decision, Mom. Instead of me, you wanted to take Lauren. Okay, but don't count on me to pay for her trip. She growled. We're family. We don't treat one another that way. I laughed resentfully. It's amusing since I had the exact same thought. Lauren's whiny voice was audible in the background. She is acting irrationally. That was the final turning point. Enjoy your journey, I remarked in a cold tone. It's not your trip, therefore. You can't. Oh, wait. It was mine. But now no one owns it. Farewell. Before she could answer, I hung up and shut off my phone once again. I had a strange mixture of relief and rage for the remainder of the evening. I felt both relief that I had finally defended myself and anger that they had put me in this predicament. All they wanted to do was label me theatrical. I wasn't allowing them to exploit me for the first time in my life. The days that followed were gloriously peaceful. When I switched off my phone, guilt trips and accusations finally stopped distracting me. I sipped coffee on my back porch in the morning and relished the peace I had long sought. My afternoons were spent working and finishing small tasks that I had been putting off, which served as a reminder of my abilities when I wasn't constrained by their never-ending demands. However, my curiosity overcame me by the third day. There were more than a dozen voicemails waiting for me when I turned my phone back on. My mother gave me the first 5. And with each one, she became more and more frantic. You must give me a call back immediately. Violet, this situation has escalated significantly. It's unbelievable that you're doing this. We are embarrassed by you. We are your parents. How could you be so cruel to us? Lauren's mails then arrived, replete with the same arrogant tone she had always employed. Even for you. This is so trivial. Everything is being ruined by you. Violet, just repair it. And lastly, my dad's voice, which is softer but just as sharp. I don't know what happened to you. Violet, give us a call back so we can resolve this. After a moment of hesitation, I listened to my mother's lengthy final message. Her tone softened with weariness and irritation this time. We're back at the airport now. Violet, she started, I hope you're satisfied with yourself. But the trip is destroyed. Your father and I are heartbroken. As is your sister. Disappointed, isn't even close to describing it. When you're ready to discuss, give us a call. Without responding, I erased the voicemails. I wasn't prepared to speak. And to be honest, I wasn't sure if I would ever be. This was not an isolated error. It was the result of years of them prioritizing Lauren and hoping I would grin in response. As the hours went by, I found myself thinking back on all the occasions I'd been ignored or written off. Every vacation when Lauren's whims determined the schedule, and every family get-together where my achievements were disregarded as unimportant. Although the fissures had been developing for years, this trip had been the tipping point. Grace dropped over unexpectedly that night with 2 cups of coffee and a curious expression on her face. She placed the coffee on the table and added, I heard about what happened. Yesterday, your mother gave me a call. She had, of course. When my mother attempted to coerce me into complying, she had always been skilled at finding allies. And? I stopped drinking and inquired. A wicked smile crept over Grace's face as she shrugged. I informed her that you were most likely busy and would contact her again when you had time. I shook my head and chuckled. You are the greatest. No, she answered. You're the finest. Her voice became abruptly grave. It's been a long time since you've stood up for yourself. Violet, I understand how difficult that is. Don't allow them to get you down again. Her words stayed with me long after her departure. Grace was correct. I had gone to great lengths to appease folks who never seemed to appreciate what I had done. It was time to permanently end that cycle. I experienced an odd feeling of clarity by the time the weekend arrived. The rage remained, seething under the surface, but something I hadn't felt in years joined it. Liberty. Freedom from their never-ending demands. Freedom from fixing things for the family. I have the freedom to live my life as I see fit. The stillness, however, was short-lived. When I did receive a call, I chose to answer it on a Sunday afternoon. My dad did it this time. Violet, he said, his voice heaving with fatigue. Your mother requested that I call. She believes you'll pay attention to me. I leaned back in my chair and murmured. Go on, he sighed. Look, this is getting out of control. Lauren is angry. Your mom is outraged. And it's just a disaster. However, you are superior to this. I tensed up as his comments sparked a new round of rage. Dad, better than what? Defending myself? Refusing to let you trample me once more? I didn't mean that, he added hastily. You have always been the sensible one. That's all. You are the one who upholds order. You're not like this. I let out a brief, sour laugh. Indeed, it's not like me. I won't make an extra effort to tidy up your mess. When he hesitated, I briefly believed he would finally understand my point of view. You're punishing the entire family over one decision, he remarked. Is that fair? Just? I said it again, raising my voice. Do you wish to discuss fairness? Was it fair when you and Mom decided I wasn't important enough to include in the vacation I had planned? When you substituted Lauren for me as if I didn't exist? Was that fair? He added in a tired voice. That's not what we were trying to do. Now his tone is defensive. We simply believed Lauren required it more. I said. Of course you did. She constantly needs more. In your opinion, more focus, more assistance. There should be an abundance of resources available. She always expects me to make sacrifices for her. No more. It was so quiet on the other end of the telephone. He finally said, I'm not sure what you want me to say. I answered steadily. I don't need you to say anything. All I need is for you to realize that I'm over being the afterthought. I'll be the first from now on. Violet. Dad. Goodbye. With shaking hands, I hung up and put the phone down. I allowed myself to experience everything for the remainder of the day. Anger, sadness, relief. Although it wasn't simple, it felt like a fresh beginning. I was no longer and never would be the family's fixer. They were capable of resolving their own mess. I was waiting for my parents and Lauren at their place when they eventually came back. After parking in their driveway, I watched their cab arrive while drinking coffee and felt remarkably at ease. Their expressions were a mixture of frustration and tiredness as they left, pulling their bags with them. It was Lauren who spoke first. Well, Violet, I hope you're content. I remained sitting on the porch swing and arched an eyebrow. What's to be cheerful about? My mother said, our trip was a disaster, and waved her hand as though dismissing the entire situation. We couldn't afford anything great, so we spent the entire week eating awful cuisine and living in squalid accommodations. Lauren crossed her arms and uttered, don't even begin to discuss the tours. There weren't any. Oh wait. You can't imagine the humiliation I felt upon discovering there was no reservation. I let their grumblings pass me by and took another drink of coffee. Finally, I calmly responded, that sounds rough. However, do you recall that you wanted to take Lauren? You all must have had a wonderful time together. That's not the point, my mother said, raising her voice. You were aware that we couldn't afford what you had planned. Your actions doomed us. I got up and placed my cup on the tiny table next to me. I did not set you up for anything. Mama, the three of us went on a trip that I organized. For years, I had been saving for something special. It was you who made the last-minute decision to cut me off. When my father did speak, it was in a lower but no less accusing tone. Violet, you didn't need to give up. That was going too far. Was it? I folded my arms and asked. I wasn't even invited to the trip. So why should I pay for it? You should have organized it yourself if Lauren needed it so badly. I'm glad I didn't postpone the flight back. Lauren rolled her eyes. You're quite theatrical, Violet. It's just money. And you're so entitled, I said, at last losing patience. How much sacrifice and effort went into organizing that vacation? Do you know? Or do you simply think that because someone else handles it, things automatically happen for you? For a time, they stood startled into silence. I went on, my voice hard but steady. I've been the responsible one for years. You've been taking everything for granted for the same amount of time as the person who fixes things, prepares things, and makes sure everything runs smoothly. My mother began to say, that's not fair, but I interrupted her by raising a hand. No, Mama, your treatment of me is unfair. As usual, you choose Lauren above me. I decided to cease being your doormat as a result. Did you not want me to go? All is well, but without me, you cannot benefit from my labors. I grabbed my luggage from the porch swing and turned to leave. Although I'm happy you made it back safely, don't count on everything to return to normal. I'm finished. They called after me as I was making my way to my car. Their words a mixture of shame and rage. However, I didn't turn around. It was oddly quiet on the journey home from my folks' place. Every visit had left me emotionally exhausted for years. But this time I felt lighter. I said everything I'd been holding back. And for once, I didn't care how they would react. Upon returning home, I brewed a cup of tea and sat on the couch, mentally reliving the altercation. They had been so confident that I would give in, as I always do. However, seeing their astonished expressions as I left served as a reminder of how far I had evolved. They could feel offended, ashamed, or furious. It no longer mattered. I had reached my limit in trying to meet their expectations. Grace called me the next day. How did it go? Without making an effort to be polite, she inquired. I leaned back against the kitchen counter and chuckled. It was exactly as expected. Lauren is sulking. They are enraged. And Mom is presumably attempting to find a way to guilt me back into compliance. Grace gave a little snort. Give it a go. Now that you have a backbone, I'm here to make sure it remains in place. I smiled, appreciating her steadfast assistance. Regards, Grace. I mean it. Throughout it all, you have been my pillar of support. Anytime, she responded, her tone becoming softer. What will you do next? You're not playing family fixer anymore, are you? I had been thinking about that question ever since the altercation. What came next? I had been putting a lot of effort into attempting to win my family's favor and please them for years. The potential seemed limitless and a touch daunting now that I had released that load. I acknowledge that I'm not sure yet, but I feel like I have the last say. No one else. Not even them. Only me. I could hear the joy in Grace's voice as she replied. Sounds like the beginning of something amazing. I began making little adjustments over the course of the following several weeks, each of which felt significant in its own right. I redecorated my living room, replacing my parents' hand-me-down furniture with items that felt like mine. I started journaling, putting down my ideas and goals without considering what other people may say. And I spent weekends visiting the neighborhood cafes and parks, things I'd always wanted to do but never had time for. Every step I took felt like I was regaining a part of myself. I opened the spreadsheet I used to arrange the trip one evening when I sat down with my laptop. As the cancelled reservations gazed back at me, I felt no remorse. Rather, I experienced a wave of resolve. I refused to squander the funds meant for an exceptional opportunity. I closed the spreadsheet and put solo travel ideas into a new tab on my browser. I made plans to travel alone to Italy a few weeks after my parents returned. It wasn't about making a point anymore. And it wasn't the same schedule one had prepared for them. This was an opportunity for me to finally prioritize myself and enjoy my freedom. I had a rush of both exhilaration and anxiety as soon as I touched down in Rome. It was my first time traveling alone. But I knew I had made the proper choice as soon as I left the airport and entered the busy metropolis. I ate at quaint small cafes, marveled at old ruins, and spent my days exploring cobblestone alleyways. There was no timetable and no one else to think about. Only I had the liberty to do as I pleased. I took out the diary I had packed one day as I sat on the Spanish steps enjoying a gelato. I had been writing about my goals for years, but they were usually entwined with making other people happy. The emphasis changed while I was writing. Acquire a new language, launch a modest company, visit a minimum of 5 other nations. As the list expanded, each objective reflected the life I wished to lead rather than the one that society had expected of me. I ate supper at a little, family-run restaurant with a view of the Arno River on my final night in Florence. I experienced a profound sense of calm as I watched the sunset tint the sky in shades of pink and orange. This trip had been a turning moment. Not merely a holiday. Here, thousands of miles away, I came to a significant realization after spending so much of my life attempting to win my family's favor. It wasn't necessary for me. As I was sufficient. My parents made another attempt to contact me after I got home, using more tactful language and well-crafted texts. I hope your trip was enjoyable. My mom texted me. Perhaps we can all speak soon? After a moment of staring at the message, I put my phone down. It was acceptable that I wasn't prepared to respond. It would be on my terms this time. I felt proud as I put trinkets on my shelf and unloaded my bag. My mother called me a week after I got back from my vacation. I responded this time. Hello, Violet, she said in an unusually kind voice. How did your journey go? It was fantastic, I said in a neutral tone. I'm glad to hear that, she responded, hesitating as though she was trying to find the proper words. We've given what transpired a lot of thought. Perhaps we did not manage things well. The revelation surprised me, but I wasn't ready to forgive her yet. Are you saying this in a negative way? Without even asking, you took my spot on a vacation that I organized and paid for. Poorly would be an understatement. I understand, she muttered. I didn't know how much it would pain you. Nor did your dad. Lauren, too? I inquired. Does she still blame me for spoiling her trip? Or does she feel awful too? According to my mother, she is upset. However, I believe she is aware that she might have handled things more skillfully. I leaned on the counter and sighed. This was more than the vacation. Mom. It has to do with years of prioritizing her and expecting me to make up the difference. I've stopped doing it. After some time, she added, I understand. We will make an effort to perform better. We'd rather not lose you. Her words tugged at something deep inside me. However, I had gained enough knowledge to avoid letting guilt control my decisions. That's good to hear, I responded. However, fixing this will require more than just words. I need more than just an apology. I need to see genuine effort. You will, she said. I hope you'll allow us to return eventually. But we'll give you the space you require. I had a range of feelings following the call. Though skeptical that they would change, they were relieved to admit their actions. However, I came to a significant realization that night when I sat down with my diary. I had no control over whether they altered or not. In the months that followed, I maintained my limits. When I felt like it, I answered their calls and SMS. However, I didn't make a special effort to resolve disputes or make amends. Rather, I concentrated on creating the life I want. I enrolled in a photography course because I'd always wanted to do it but had never had the time or energy. I even started organizing my next solo trip after joining a local hiking organization. With every stride, I felt as though I was reclaiming a part of myself. I became aware of how far I had come one day while enjoying a sunset while sitting on my veranda. I didn't make a special effort for people who didn't respect me. I was a self-respecting individual who established limits and didn't hesitate to defend her rights. I was genuinely liberated.